Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and Integrity doing a Cyber Angel deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely fun ritual deck that I've included all sorts of spicy tech cards in this build for you guys. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Cyber Angel Benton. This card is a definite 3-0 in the build. It's one of the most powerful ritual monsters ever created, with a crazy powerful effect that if this card is tributed, you get to add a light fairy monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really good ability for this card to have to instantly get you to any light fairy monster that you need from your deck to your hand, because we can search awesome cards of this card's ability, like our copies of Diviner of the Herald or any of our other Cyber Angel monsters. We then play a single copy of Cyber Angel Vrash. Vrash is how we OTK our opponent, which is why we play this card as a 1-of in the build. This card is absolutely insane in the deck because it has the ability you can ritual summon this card with Machine Angel Ritual. And if this card is ritual summoned, you can destroy as many face-up monsters your opponent controls as possible that were special summoned from the extra deck. And if you do, inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent for each, and if you do that, this card can make a second attack during this battle phase of this turn, which is a great ability for this card to have to OTK your opponent while also doing burn damage and board wiping your opponent's field. This card is insanely powerful at just OTKing so easily in this deck. It also has the ability that once per turn, during either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated that would destroy cards on the field, you can shuffle a ritual monster from your graveyard back in the deck and negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card, which is a great ability to help you get a negate while also recycling your copies of Benton. We then play a single copy of Cyber Angel Dakini. Dakini is a great 1-of in the deck, and I really love summoning this card to the field because it has a really good ability that if this card is ritual summoned, you can make your opponent send a monster that they control to the graveyard, and it's their choice, which is actually affecting the player to be able to choose the card that they send to the graveyard, which is a really cool ability to out a bunch of really powerful boss monsters that usually you couldn't out with a card effect. This card also has the ability that if a ritual monster you control attacks, it does piercing damage, and once per turn, during your end phase, you can actually target a ritual monster or a Machine Angel ritual in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, giving you a little bit of recovery. We then play a single copy of Cyber Angel Izana. Izana is great as a 1-of in the deck, but you really only need a single copy of these cards in the build. But this card is great in the deck because it has an awesome ability that if this card is ritual summoned, you can make your opponent send a spell or trap that they control to the graveyard, kind of like your copy of Dakini, which is a great effect for this card to have. And when this attacking card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can actually activate this effect that this card can make a second attack on an opponent's monster in a row. And once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a Cyber Angel ritual monster that you control, quick effect, you can shuffle a ritual monster from your graveyard back in the deck, and if you do, destroy a card your opponent controls, which is a great effect to give you a pop. We then play a single copy of Edatin. Edatin's good as a 1-of in the deck because this card does give you a little bit of a boost on your monster's attack points if this card is tributed, because it boosts them up by 1,000 attack defense points, which is a great effect for this card to have. We then play a single copy of Cyber Angel Natasha. Natasha is great in this deck as a 1-of because this card has an awesome ability. If this card's in your graveyard, you can banish one other Cyber Angel monster from your grave and target a monster your opponent controls and special summon this card, and if you do, take control of that opponent's monster, which is a great ability for this card to have just to be able to take control of an opponent's monster. I love this card in the deck as a 1-of, and it's just such a powerful card in this particular build. We then play 2 copies of Cyber Petite Angel. Cyber Petite Angel is great in this deck as a 2-of because if this card is summoned, you actually get to add a Cyber Angel monster or Machine Angel ritual from your deck to your hand, which is a great ability for this card to have to be able to instantly get you to one of the cards that you need. It's one of the best normal summons in the deck. We then play a single copy of Cyber Egg Angel. This card is good just as a 1-of in the build, and I really like this card in the deck, but I feel like 1 is totally fine, because if it's summoned, you can actually add a Machine Angel spell or a Ritual Sanctuary from your deck to your hand, which is a pretty good effect. We then play 3 copies of Diviner of the Heralds. This card is great in the deck, and just an amazing card in the majority of ritual decks in the game, because if it's normal or special summon, you can send a fairy monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, increase this card's level by that monster's level until the end of the turn. And if this card is tributed, you get to special summon a level 2 or lower fairy monster from your hand or deck, which is a great effect to be able to summon out a bunch of different cards off this card's ability. But a really cool card to be able to send to the graveyard off this effect is your copy of Herald of the Arclight, which will then get you a search of a ritual monster or a ritual spell, which is a great ability for this card to have. We also have a combo with this card. By just normal summoning out this card to your side of the field, you can actually step into a copy of Baron de Fleur. We then play a single copy of Trias. Trias is actually how we step into our copy of Baron de Fleur, because you send this card to the graveyard off your copy of Diviner, which will make your Diviner a level 11, and then you tribute it with the effect of your Trias to be able to use its ability to special summon itself back from the graveyard to your side of the field. But since you tributed Diviner, you get to special summon a level 2 or lower fairy monster from your deck, which you are going to summon out your copy of Bootem, which just so happens to be a level 1 tuner. So you can actually synchro both of these together to be able to summon out your copy of Baron de Fleur, which is a really cool thing about these cards. We then play some incantation monsters. So we're going to start off with 2 copies of Kandal. Kandal is great in the deck as a 2-up because your incantation monsters share common abilities that you either reveal a ritual monster or ritual spell to special summon both this card and an incantation monster from your deck. And if they're special summoned from the deck, they give you a search or grab something back from the graveyard. For example, your copy of Kandal has to reveal a ritual spell to special summon itself. And if this card is special summoned from the deck, you get to add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand, which is a great ability for this card to have to be able to get the exact cards that you need. Also, while your incantations are on the field, you cannot special summon from the extract, so you're usually going to want to tribute these cards off pretty quickly. We then play 2 copies of Talismandra. Talismandra does the exact same thing as Kandal, but for ritual monsters. By revealing a ritual monster, you can special summon it, and when it's special summoned from the deck, you get to add a ritual monster from your deck to your hand. We then play a single copy of Bookstone. Bookstone's really good as a 1-of in the build, because this card has a great ability that if this card is special summoned from the deck, you actually get to target a ritual spell in the graveyard and add it back to your hand. We then play a single copy of Pencil Plume. Pencil Plume is great as a 1-of in the build as well, because this card, if it's special summoned from the deck, you get to target a ritual monster in the grave and add it back to hand, which is a great ability. We then play a single copy of Archlord Christia. This card is so easy to get to with your copy of Benton, because Benton has a great ability to be able to search a light fairy monster if it's tributed, and you can actually search Christia off that ability, which is insane. Because if you have exactly 4 fairy monsters in your graveyard, you can actually special summon this card from your hand, and if it's special summoned this way, you actually get to target a fairy in your graveyard and add that target back to your hand, and neither player can special summon monsters while this card's on the field, and in this case a card would be sent from the field to the grave. You actually place this card on top of your deck instead, so you can get it back again to put it back on the field. You can tribute summon this card out to your side of the field as well to get rid of your incantation monsters if you open up this card, which is a really cool ability. We then play a single copy of Vanity's Ruler. Speaking of tribute summoning, you can actually tribute summon out Vanity's Ruler in the deck, and it is searchable because this card is a fairy and a light, so you can search it off your copy of Cyber Angel Benton. And this card has the ability that just your opponent cannot special summon monsters, which is a crazy powerful effect for this card to have, and it's so easy to use in this deck to be able to tribute your incantation monsters to be able to summon out this card. We then play 2 copies of Herald of the Orange Light. This card is great as a 2-of in the build, just to be able to stop your opponent's monster effects, because it has the ability when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effects, you can send this card and one other fairy monster from your hand to the grave and negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it, which is a really good ability. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom just stops your opponent from touching the deck, which is why we play this card as a 3-of in the build. This card helps out a lot in this deck. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is really good in this deck as a 1-of because this card instantly gets you to your copy of Ritual Sanctuary. We then play 3 copies of Preparation of Rites. Preparation of Rites is super helpful in this deck because this card lets you add a level 7 or lower ritual monster from your deck to your hand. Then you can add a ritual spell from your graveyard to your hand, which is a great ability for this card to have to instantly get you the exact cards that you need. And this card is basically Rhoda for the deck because it can grab your copies of Benton. We then play a single copy of Machine Angel Absolute Ritual. I feel like this card is a good 1-of in the deck, but you really don't need any more than a single copy of this card because this card can be used to ritual summon any Cyber Angel monster that it's really good to be able to use, but you must also tribute monsters from your hand or from your field or shuffle Fairy or Warrior type monsters from your graveyard back in the deck whose total level exactly equal the level of the ritual monster that you're attempting to ritual summon, which is a great ability to be able to use to be able to shuffle your cards back and use them again later. We then play 3 copies of Machine Angel Ritual. This card is great in the deck as a 3-of to be able to ritual summon out your Cyber Angel monsters, and it also gives you a little bit of protection because if a light monster you control would be destroyed by battle or by card effect while this card's in your graveyard, you can banish this card from your grave instead, which is a great ability to be able to use because it almost works like a copy of Return of the Dragon Lords or Branded Opening to give you that little bit of protection. We then play 3 copies of Ritual Sanctuary. Ritual Sanctuary is a crazy powerful card in the deck that you definitely want to play as a 3-of because it lets you discard a spell card to add a light ritual monster or a ritual spell from your deck to your hand, which is a good ability to be able to use with this card. And it also has the ability that you can shuffle any number of spell cards from your graveyard into the deck and then target a light fairy type monster in your graveyard whose level equals the number of cards that you shuffled into the deck and special summon it, which is a great ability to use with your Cyber Petite Angel because we don't play a lot of spell cards in this deck, but it's very easy to use because those cards are just level 2, so this card can easily summon them out to your side of the field, which is great about this card. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start with 3 copies of Herald of the Arclight. The main effect that we're going to be using on this card is if it touches the graveyard, you can actually grab a ritual monster ritual spell from your deck to your hand. We then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is very easy to summon in this deck because all you have to do is normal summon out your copy of Diviner, then send your Trias to the graveyard, tribute your copy of Diviner for Trias, and then special summon out Bhutan off the Diviner's effect, and then synchro summon a 9 and a 1 together to make this card, which is super easy to do in this deck. We then play a single copy of Ultimaya Tzolk'in. Tzolk'in is great in this build as a 1-of because it's super easy to make in this deck. So we do put out a lot of level 6s in this build. Plus you have your Diviner that can send your copy of Herald of Arclight to the graveyard to become a level 6, so you can make your copy of Ultimaya Tzolk'in. And the only target we play in the extract to be able to summon off of Ultimaya Tzolk'in is the best target, and that is a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. This card is amazing, and it's just a really good monster negate in the deck to summon off your copy of Ultimaya Tzolk'in. These two work so well together. We then play 2 copies of Elder Entity Nist. Elder Entity Nist is really good in this deck as a 2-of to be able to send to the graveyard with your copy of your Diviner so that you can pop a card on the field. This card is just great in the deck to be able to use. You could potentially bump this card down to 1 if you want to, but I like this card at 2 because it gives you a little bit of follow-up if you need to pop a second card off Diviner's ability. We then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code is very easy to summon in this deck, and it's a really good boss monster to be able to pop multiple cards on the field and just deal with your opponent's field. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to spin stuff, 1 copy of Dynamundo. Dynamundo is just amazing in just about every ritual deck, which is why we play this card as a 1-of in the build, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix to pop spells and traps, 1 copy of IP Masquerade to be able to make your copy of Unicorn during the opponent's turn, and finally a single copy of Herald of Mirage Light. This card is a great walking negate in the deck, which is why we play this card as a 1-of in the build, because when a spell or trap card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can send a fairy monster from your hand to the graveyard to negate the activation if you do destroy it, and if this card in your possession is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can add up to 2 ritual monsters and or ritual spells with different names from your graveyard back to your hand, giving you an insane amount of recovery with this card. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have not played Cyber Angels before, you should definitely give this deck a try. It's super fun to be able to ritual summon out cards to your side of the field, especially with your copy of Rash being such a powerful card and getting so many searches off of Benton. You can seriously loop through this card like 3 to 4 times in a turn, which is absolutely insane. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.